In the turbulent landscape of the Middle East, where ancient history collides with modern conflicts, one question echoes through time: who are the Palestinians? Are they truly descendants of Ishmael, as many claim? Or does their story weave through a far more complex tapestry of ancient peoples, forgotten civilizations, and genetic revelations that challenge everything we thought we knew? Today, we embark on an extraordinary journey through biblical prophecy, archaeological discoveries, and cutting-edge DNA science to uncover the remarkable truth about Palestinian origins. What we'll discover will surprise you, challenge assumptions, and reveal connections that span millennia. Welcome to another episode of Origins According to the Bible, where we explore the fascinating intersection of scripture, science, and history. I'm your host, and today we're diving deep into one of the most complex and misunderstood topics of our time: the true origins of the Palestinian people. Let's begin where many discussions start, with the biblical account of Ishmael. In Genesis 16 verses 10 to 12, God makes a profound promise through his angel. "I will greatly multiply your descendants so that they will be too numerous to count. He will be like a wild donkey, his hand will be against everyone and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all his brothers." For centuries, this passage has been interpreted as the foundation of Arab identity, with many believing that modern Palestinians are direct, pure descendants of Ishmael, Abraham's firstborn son. This interpretation has even been used to explain ongoing conflicts in the region. But here's where it gets fascinating: modern science tells a very different story. In 2020, a groundbreaking study published in the prestigious journal Cell analyzed ancient DNA from 73 individuals across Bronze and Iron Age sites in the southern Levant. The results were revolutionary. The study revealed that Palestinians derive 81 to 87% of their ancestry from Bronze Age Levantines, specifically the ancient Canaanites who lived in the land thousands of years before the Islamic conquest. Only 8 to 12% comes from East African sources, and 5 to 10% from Bronze Age Europeans. But here's the shocking part: Jews and Palestinians are genetically closer to each other than either group is to any other population on Earth. According to geneticist Dr. Harry Oster's research, Palestinians share more genetic similarity with Jewish populations than with Arab populations from the Arabian Peninsula. The genetic evidence points to something remarkable: both Palestinians and Jews are primarily descended from the same ancient Canaanite populations that inhabited the land for millennia. This means that the Palestinian connection to the land isn't through Ishmael's Arabian descendants, but through the indigenous Canaanite peoples mentioned throughout the Bible. These Canaanites weren't just one tribe, they were a diverse collection of peoples including the original Canaanites, Jebusites who controlled Jerusalem, Hittites scattered throughout the region, Amorites in the hill country, Perizzites in the rural areas. The Bible records extensive interactions between the Israelites and these Canaanite peoples, often involving intermarriage and cultural exchange rather than complete displacement. Now, let's address the elephant in the room: the name Palestinian itself derives from Philistine. But here's where history gets truly intriguing. Recent DNA analysis of ancient Philistine remains from Ashkelon, published in Science Advances, revealed that the biblical Philistines were actually European migrants from the Aegean region, likely from Crete or mainland Greece. They arrived during the Bronze Age collapse around 1200 BCE as part of the mysterious Sea Peoples. However, and this is crucial, these ancient Philistines completely assimilated into the local Canaanite population within a few generations. By the time of the Islamic conquest in the 7th century CE, any distinct Philistine genetic signature had long since dissolved into the broader Canaanite gene pool. So when Romans later named the region Palestina after the long-vanished Philistines, they were using an ancient name for a land whose inhabitants were primarily Canaanite descendants. Here's where the story takes another fascinating turn. When Arab armies conquered the Levant in the 7th century CE, they didn't replace the existing population, they converted them. Genetic studies by Dr. Ali Nebel and others suggest that a significant portion, possibly the majority, of Palestinian Muslims are descendants of local Jewish and Samaritan populations who converted to Islam after the conquest. This explains why Palestinian and Jewish populations share such remarkable genetic similarity despite religious differences. Some Palestinian families and areas like Nablus still maintain oral traditions connecting them to ancient Samaritan or Jewish roots, corroborating the genetic evidence. The truth about Palestinian origins is far more complex and fascinating than any simple descendants of Ishmael narrative suggests. Modern Palestinians represent a genetic mosaic that includes primary components: ancient Canaanite populations, Israelite/Hebrew populations, Samaritan communities, assimilated Philistines, other pre-Islamic Levantine peoples. Secondary components: Arab settlers from the conquest period, various Islamic-era migrations, small percentages of African and European ancestry. So what about the claim of Ishmael descent? Historical and genetic evidence suggests this is largely a theological construct rather than genetic reality. The association of Arabs with Ishmael appears to have developed during the early Islamic period as Muslim scholars sought to connect Arab identity with biblical narrative. Christian theologians also promoted this connection to fit new peoples into existing biblical genealogies. However, genetic studies consistently show that Arabian Peninsula Arabs, who might legitimately claim Ishmaelite descent, are genetically distinct from Levantine Palestinians. Palestinians are much more closely related to other Levantine populations, including Jews, than to Arabian Arabs. One of the most remarkable discoveries in Palestinian genetic studies involves the Samaritans, the small religious community that claims descent from the northern Israelite tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. Genetic analysis has confirmed that modern Samaritans do indeed carry ancient Israelite ancestry. But here's the stunning revelation: significant portions of the Palestinian population in areas like Nablus and northern West Bank show close genetic relationships to Samaritans, suggesting shared Israelite ancestry. This means many Palestinians may literally be descendants of the biblical Israelites through the Samaritan line, a connection that predates both Christianity and Islam. Archaeological evidence supports the genetic findings. Excavations throughout Palestine reveal continuous habitation and cultural evolution rather than population replacement. Bronze Age Canaanite cities show gradual transition rather than sudden abandonment. Iron Age sites reveal mixed Israelite-Canaanite material culture. Roman-era findings show diverse religious practices before Christianization. Islamic period sites show gradual cultural transformation of existing communities. The archaeological record paints a picture of cultural evolution and religious transformation rather than demographic replacement. These scientific findings have profound implications for understanding the modern Middle East. Rather than supporting narratives of ancient enmity between different peoples, genetics reveals shared ancestry and common heritage. The scientific evidence suggests that Palestinians and Jews share more genetic heritage with each other than with other populations. Both groups descend primarily from ancient Canaanite and Israelite populations. Modern conflicts have political and religious rather than ancient ethnic origins. The land has been continuously inhabited by related populations for millennia. From a biblical standpoint, these findings are fascinating. The scripture speaks extensively about intermarriage between Israelites and Canaanites, the gradual nature of Israelite settlement rather than complete conquest, the persistence of Canaanite populations throughout biblical history, God's concern for justice and righteousness rather than ethnic purity. The genetic evidence actually aligns well with biblical accounts that show complex interactions between different peoples rather than simple displacement narratives. As we consider biblical prophecy regarding the end times, these genetic revelations add new dimensions to our understanding. Rather than eternal conflict between different peoples, Scripture ultimately points toward reconciliation between the sons of Abraham, the gathering of scattered peoples, justice and peace in the Holy Land, God's sovereignty over all nations and peoples. The genetic evidence of shared heritage might actually point toward the biblical vision of eventual unity rather than perpetual division. So, who are the Palestinians according to the Bible and modern science? The answer is both simpler and more complex than popular narratives suggest. Palestinians are not primarily descendants of Ishmael from Arabia. Instead, they are primarily descendants of the ancient Canaanite and Israelite populations that have inhabited the land for millennia. They represent a continuity of habitation that stretches back to biblical times, with genetic heritage that connects them intimately to the land and to other Levantine peoples, including Jews. This doesn't resolve modern political conflicts, but it does provide crucial context. The genetic evidence reveals shared heritage rather than ancient enmity. Both Palestinians and Jews can legitimately claim deep ancestral connections to the Holy Land through their common Canaanite and Israelite ancestry. The story of Palestinian origins is ultimately a story of human continuity, cultural transformation, and genetic persistence across thousands of years of history. It's a reminder that human identity is complex, that genetics often challenges political narratives, and that biblical truth encompasses far more complexity than simple tribal genealogies. What do you think about these remarkable scientific discoveries? How do they change your understanding of Middle Eastern history and biblical narrative? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this exploration of Palestinian origins fascinating, you won't want to miss our upcoming episode where we examine biblical prophecies about Gog and Magog in light of recent Middle Eastern events. Are we witnessing the fulfillment of ancient prophecies? Subscribe now and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any episodes in our Origins According to the Bible series, where we continue exploring the intersection of scripture, science, and history. Until next time, keep seeking truth through both the written word and God's revelation through creation itself.